Welcome everybody to Toronto Today here on the Parlay. I'm your host Luca alongside my co-host Michael, and we are super excited for today's show. We've had a lot of good stuff to talk about, and we haven't been able to say that in regards to Toronto sports for a while, but 2022 starting off the right way. I mean, we got some huge news to get to, but Mike, how you feeling about Toronto sports finally looking like it's back?
For sure, man. Obviously, the Raptors, they're back to 500. The Leafs are on fire, one of the best teams in the NHL right now. Toronto FC absolutely making waves, not just in Canada, but all over the world, getting a superstar in Lorenzo Insigne. Right now, it's a good time to be a Toronto sports fan, Luca.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And let's hope 2022 continues to be a great year for Toronto sports. We're first going to talk about the Raptors. This is a team that looked dead in the water a few weeks ago. And now all of a sudden they have won three in a row. They're 3-0 without fans. They're back to 500. They're moving up in the standings. And right now they're seeing some pretty incredible play from guys like Fred VanVleet, who's been playing like an all-star. Siakam looks like his old self. And they're coming off a big win against the Spurs, 129 to 104. The line for this game, Mike, was actually 7. Are you surprised that it was this low, considering the Raptors were coming in with some momentum and the Spurs have been a mediocre team?
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't surprised just because the Raptors heading into this matchup, yeah, they've been hot lately, but over the course of the season, they've been, pretty inconsistent and pretty, at times pretty dreadful. So, whenever you see a kind of a big spread, 7 points, that's not terrible. And I wouldn't have been surprised yesterday, if the Spurs showed up and did a little bit better because they have some solid players as well. But what I will say is I think the Raptors moving forward, they could be a good value pick, Luca. They have for the first time, I think, first 3 game stretch where they've had their top 7 players healthy in the lineup. And I think that's what everybody's kind of been waiting for. What does this Raptors team look like when everybody's in the lineup? And we've been getting a taste of it. Maybe the no crowd at Scotiabank Arena is also helping them out. I don't know what's happening right now, but yeah, the Raptors could be a good value pick moving forward.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, this team looked like, it was possibly going to miss the entire playing tournament. And don't look now, they're tied for eighth. They are gaining that momentum. They do have everybody back, like you just mentioned. And it's incredible because they did have that tough health and safety protocol stretch, but they really overcame that. And now we are seeing how good this team can be when everybody's out there. Gary Trent Jr., Fred VanVleet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes having a rookie of the year campaign. There's a lot of talent on this team. And I think it's only going to continue to trend upwards for the Raptors. Now, they have been beating up on some pretty lesser competition, but hey, listen, you're supposed to beat up on the teams that you're supposed to beat. Like we've seen so many times this season early on, the Raptors were losing to teams that they had no business losing to. So it is it is good to know that they are taking care of business. And now we're going to see how they stack up against some of the top tier teams in the league. So that can give you a true measuring stick of how this team looks right now. But I do think, yeah, if you're willing to sprinkle some money in the Raptors, possibly getting into the playoffs, top 6 even, I think now's the time to move on that. But that's going to lead me to my next question, Mike. Speaking of going up against, top tier teams, the Raptors, they're going to be on the second night of a back-to-back, and they're going to be taking on a very good Bucks team who were on a 6-game winning streak before they lost to the Pistons. The spread for tonight's game, Bucks 7.5. So are you laying or are you taking the points?
I like the Raptors here, honestly, and I think they are going to cover that sort of spread there, 7.5 points. Listen, the Bucks are a very good team, and all due respect to them. But as I mentioned before, I just think the Raptors are a really good value pick right now. If they don't win the game, I don't think they're going to get blown out here. They're playing really confident right now. Pascal Siakam, who might be sort of the key piece to this Raptors team, is finding his own. I think even he's doing the little things right, and that starts obviously on both ends of the court. But specifically, he's crashing the glass. I think over his last 3 games, he's grabbed 45 rebounds, which is typically not the type of player Siakam's been in the past. But he's committed to kind of doing everything right, and I think that's translating into his confidence. And now we see him scoring the basketball. And when Fred VanVleet's shooting the way that he's been shooting over his last, I don't want to say like 5, 10 games, like Freddie's playing like an all-star, like you said. So yeah, I absolutely think I'll take the Raptors here to sort of cover that 7.5 spread. And Hopefully I get proven right here.
Yeah, typically you want to avoid the Raptors on the second night of a back-to-back, and they are going up against a Bucks team that, when they are healthy, they have proven to be one of the unbeatable teams in the league, especially when their big three is out there. But I like what you said about confidence, and right now this team is playing with a great deal of confidence. Fred VanVleet in the post-game interview last night, he looks good and he feels good about his performances out there, and it's just that lingering effect with the team. Like, you see it. The guys just look happier. They're playing with a great deal of energy. And there's just seems to be a shift that wasn't there at the beginning of the season when they were going through some of those obstacles. So typically I wouldn't touch a game like this on the second night of back to back, but you've been talking about value picks. We're going to continue with that trend. Yeah, I think the Raptors are worth a very good pick here. And I think they do keep things close. I don't expect them to win the game, but they could make things interesting in that fourth quarter and cover the 7.5. So I'm on that train with you, Mike. I think the Raptors are going to cover here, and they're going to continue to prove a lot of people wrong.
Let's go. Let's go. I love to see it. And speaking of numbers quickly, another thing to really watch out for, you talk about that happiness and sort of that confidence again, is there's only been one player so far on the Raptors that hasn't entered health and safety protocol, and that's Chris Boucher. So I feel like the team sort of has that over the hump a little bit. They have experience playing in sort of this type of environment where there's no fans at home, going to a place like Milwaukee. So they're one of the more experienced teams when it comes to the COVID era, and maybe that'll translate as well.
Yeah, and I said before, hopefully, the worst is in the past. They got through that tough stretch, and now with guys coming on back, it should be gravy for the Raptors. So we'll see if they keep it going, and they do cover the number tonight, and could maybe even win the game against the Bucks. Switching gears now to the Leafs, they're also in action tonight. They've been on a bit of a roll lately, and they're taking on the reeling Oilers, who are going the other way. In tonight's game, the Leafs are 1.5-point favorites. You look at this game. Austin Matthews, I mean, it was weird, Mike. He first tested, positive, but then he tested negative. So he is able to play in tonight's game. While you look at, Connor McDavid, I don't think he's going to be able to play tonight. So this is going to be a pretty big mismatch if that's the case. Before we get into your pick, what has been your overall takeaway from the Leafs this season? Like, do you think what they've shown us is for real? And can this team finally get over that hump of making it past the first round? Because now they're starting to beat not only just the Canadian teams, but everybody in the league.
For sure, they're doing essentially what they did last season, but as you said, across the NHL. And listen, I've watched the Leafs for a long time, and it's tough for me to say confidently that they're going to win a playoff round because I've said that in the past and it just hasn't happened. But there's no reason to sort of doubt the team right now. I mean, they're doing it left, right, and center. The question is going to, as you mentioned, can they win a playoff round? That'll be, I mean, that remains to be seen. But I do like the way that this team is doing all the little things right. I think from front to back, they're a lot better. Maybe they gave up a little bit of depth offensively, but they picked that back up defensively, which has been one of their biggest gaps. In net, Jack Campbell is playing like a Vezina Trophy goaltender right now. And there's a lot to like about this team. As I mentioned, like a lot of the little things that you see go into a game, they're doing everything right. On the face-off dot, they have four guys who are all above 50%, which is crucial, I think, in the postseason when you're trying to get every sort of puck possession, every little advantage. And hey, as an eternal Toronto optimist, I'm going to say, yeah, man, I do think they can finally do that and get there and get over the hump.
Yeah, we're agreeing a lot on the show early on. I got to agree with that statement. I think this is finally the year, fingers crossed, the Leafs do get past the first round. I mean, it's now or never for this team, really. Like, this team has proven that they can, beat everybody in the regular season, have these incredible campaigns, and then for whatever reason, they just can't get that monkey off their back. And, they almost had it last year before the epic collapse, but this has to be the year where it clicks for this Toronto team, or we could truly see some major change in the offseason. You talk about, the goaltending being great. The players are just playing with a great deal of confidence, and they are not, like I said, not just beating teams that they're supposed to be, in Canada. They're beating everybody. And that was kind of one of the knocks that they had last season. Oh, they look this good because they're just playing the Canadian teams. But now they're proving to do it against, a lot of the stiff competition in the league. And I like how when they had that bit of a rough patch at the start of the season, they quickly put that in the past, and now they are rolling and truly flexing their muscles, while the Oilers, a little bit of the reverse, right? They were dominating and now they're falling off, and now people are calling them frauds because at one point people were talking about them being a possible, Stanley Cup contender. So we'll see how the Oilers go from here on out, but it's got to be frustration all around for this Oilers team. You talk about the magnifying glass being on the Maple Leafs this season. It's on the Oilers because this team has to produce, especially when you have the best player in the league in Connor McDavid. So that's going to lead us to tonight's game. As I mentioned, the Leafs are favorites for tonight's game, and rightfully so. Who do you got?
Well, I mean, it's tough right now to bet against the Leafs, especially if the Oilers are not going to have Connor McDavid. It's a 1.5 point spread, and I do imagine that they'll cover that. I mean, there's only been one time this season where the Leafs have taken a game to a shootout. This is a team that's kind of, for the course of the season, they haven't really relied on those 1 goal games. They've really, gotten those 2 goals, 3 goals, whatever the difference is. They've been playing some solid hockey, and you add in the fact that they'll get the big boost back into the lineup in Austin Matthews. I feel like their top six is back intact. It's tough right now, like I said, to bet against this Leafs team. So I'm gonna say the Leafs are going to cover the spread, and I do like them, like I said, to defeat the Oilers here tonight.
Yeah, most likely no McDavid, and also forward Derek Ryan also tested positive. So both those guys did not participate in practice, and maybe both of them don't go. So they're just shorthanded and they're reeling right now. Are the Oilers, the Leafs? They're playing hot. They're getting Matthews back. I think it's going to be good times all around for the Maple Leafs. I do like them to cover this number. I think I could see a score line of about 3-1 or even 4-2, but I think they will win by at least 2 goals to cover this number. So yeah, we'll see if the Leafs can keep on going. And Oilers fans, I know they're going to be crying some more tears after this one. That's going to bring us to our last talking point, and that is arguably the biggest news to come out of Toronto for this week. But this was, expected to happen for the last couple of weeks. I know you covered it closely on Twitter, Mike, but it's official. Lorenzo Insigne now a part of Toronto FC. Break down the details for everybody.
Yeah, it's been a move that's been in the works for a long time. Yesterday in Rome, he finally signed his contract, which will make him the highest paid player in Major League Soccer history. He's going to be making, they reported numbers at least, is he's going to be making about double what Wayne Rooney made when he got here, Zlatan Ibrahimovic when he got here, all the big sort of superstars that came through MLS. He's going to be making more than that. And there's a big reason for that. And it's because we've never seen this before. We've never seen a player at his age, in his prime, come over to Major League Soccer. He could have been really scouted by and brought in by a lot of the top teams. Tottenham were rumored, Inter Milan were rumored, all teams around Europe were rumored to kind of be swinging for this guy. And it was Toronto FC that kind of came out on top, which is a big statement for MLS and kind of the direction this league is heading. Sure, they had to, give up an absolute bag for this type of player, but this is a sort of player that gets fans in the seats. The sort of player that can kind of right the ship for Toronto FC and get the season or the team back on track after what was an absolutely dreadful season. So if you're a Toronto FC fan, if you're just a casual soccer fan in Toronto, you're going to enjoy this. I know you're from Woodbridge, so I know you're all over this right now. It's going to be a good time for anyone that takes in a game at BMO Field this summer.
Yeah, I saw the craziness that went down when Javinko was here. A lot of the Canadian Italians going to games and, rooting for TFC. And I think it's even going to be bigger now that, Insigne is coming on over. So I think it is a major power move. It's a good business move for TFC. You're going to get more people going to games. And it's going to be incredible to see Insigne literally here in Toronto. Like I never thought we would see that, and here it is. So, Mike, I got to ask, why Toronto for Insigne? I mean, he is arguably still in his prime. He's, a really good player. Was it ultimately the money that lured him here or any other factor?
Well, mainly for sure, it was money. There was no one out there that was going to come close to Insigne's number. This is a guy who's been with Napoli his entire career. And Napoli, unfortunately, were offering reportedly less than his current contract there at the club. So at the end of the day, like if you're able to secure essentially generational wealth for your family here over the next 5.5 seasons, a long-term deal with Toronto, it's kind of tough to turn that number down. But I'm sure there's a lot of other things that go into it. You have that proof of concept in Sebastian Javinko, and kind of everybody saw what happened when he came over to Toronto, and sort of the culture that he built and he instilled, and the support that he got and love that he got. And now Javinko's taking front page articles in the Toronto Star saying that he wants to come back to Toronto because he was treated that well. And everyone knows the community, or the Italian community that Toronto has. And he'll be treated like an absolute legend here in Toronto. So a lot of different things. I know TFC are very good at pitching to these star players. This isn't the first time we're seeing a star player come over to Toronto. They're going to be taking care of his family, and it's a very good sell by TFC. You know, you've had Jermaine Defoe, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Julio Cesar, some big players, world notable players that have come over in the past and joined TFC. And Lorenzo Insigne is sort of just the next one. It's just an absolute great deal of business. And I really like the fact that this team is not going to be paying a transfer fee for this type of player. They're going to be getting him on a free transfer. You know, he's going to be missing about half the season just because he's coming over in the summer.
Yeah.
So if they can kind of get to that point and he insert Insigne into that lineup, that's going to do wonders for this squad. So overall, I think it's just a great deal of business.
Yeah, win-win situation, right? I mean, he's going to be coming on over here. Like you said, the support's going to be amazing. He's going to be making the most money, and he's going to be terrorizing the league. Let's call it for what it is. I mean, he's going to be the top dog in this league, and he's going to instantly boost Toronto FC's competitive chances. I mean, this is a team that before signing Insigne, they were plus 2,600 in terms of winning the MLS Cup, and now they are plus 1,650. So are you jumping the train? Like, do you think TFC can actually compete for an MLS Cup just by having Insigne there? I mean, you would think that's the case.
And you guys should have been following me on Twitter when I broke the news last week and placed that big value bet at plus 2,600. I think just overnight, just since Fabrizio reported it, that went up about 1,000 more, to plus 1,600, 1,650. But are they contenders yet? Not quite, in my opinion. Yes, Insigne is a game changer, but TFC were second last in the league last season.
Yeah.
He does fix a lot of those problems, but there is a lot of moves that you still have to make. Now, again, the biggest question is they're going to be without Insigne and perhaps another signing in Domenico Crescito from Genoa come the summer. But what are they going to be doing until you get to that point? Is that hole going to be dug a little bit too deep for them to kind of salvage that? It's a risk. But that being said, if they can get to that point, they're in an okay position. You insert Insigne, you insert Crescito, maybe a couple other players into the lineup. I don't see any reason why this team can't get hot the second half of the season and make a push to that MLS Cup. So I wouldn't advise against it. I'm just not totally sold yet.
I mean, you should have jumped all over the plus 2,600 if you did have that itch that Insigne was coming on over here, because that would have been some great odds. I mean, honestly, yeah, I'm a betting man. I would take those odds. I think, yeah, like even their odds now, I think are still reasonable. And I know they still have a lot of work to do, and one player is in the entire team. But hey, it's worth a shot. We saw the kind of life that, Javinko injected a couple of seasons ago, and then obviously, the other moves were made to make TFC a powerhouse once again in MLS. So we could see something similar here. Maybe it won't happen in this first season, but definitely, soon TFC is going to be atop of the MLS, league, as you would assume. So yeah, I mean, if you do want to jump on this number, jump on it now, because I think it's only going to get less as TFC continues to make more moves to better their squad. So it's an exciting time, Mike. It really is. We'll see what happens with everything. But yeah, this is Toronto Today, where we cover all things Toronto sports. And the Raptors look to keep it going against the Bucks. The Leafs look to be victorious against the Oilers. And right now, you got a lot of excited TFC fans with the arrival of Lorenzo Insigne. This is Luca and Mike signing off. Thank you so much for watching. This is Toronto Today here on the Parlay.